distributing illegal drugs off the streets. We've taken 14 firearms off the street, thousands of grams of illegal substances, and having the potential to save dozens of lives in our community. Last year in Rhode Island, 430 people died of illegal overdoses. Many of those were here in the city of Providence. And by these very good arrests and seizures, there's a chance that more of those folks will be going home to their family members or have a chance to find recovery and break the cycle of addiction. The safety and well-being of our residents is and will always remain a top priority of mine. And supporting the Providence Police Department to continue to do the exceptional work that they do is also something that I will continue to fight for as long as I'm here. In partnership with the Providence City Council, in my first budget, and again in the budget that I'm going to introduce in a few weeks, we will make sure that the Providence Police Department continues to have the resources that they need, and we will maintain our reputation as a leader in both community-based policing, but also in major actions like this, where we continue to take illegal guns off the street, continue to focus on violent and serious crime, and work every day to make our city safer. All of this happens under the leadership of our Colonel, Oscar Perez, who continues to do an exceptional job here in Providence. Again, I want to thank Major LePayton for the incredible work that he does to lead the division, and all the men and women, many of whom can't be behind us because they have other active cases going on, but I want to give my personal and sincere thanks for their hard work, the risks that they take to keep the rest of us in a safer place here. And I will turn it over to Colonel Perez to, again, thank some other people who were involved and outline all of the details for the operations, and we'll come back up for questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here today for this press conference. Thank you, Mayor, for joining us this morning and for your continued support to the Providence Police Department. It's much appreciated. I also want to thank members of the department, the Drug Enforcement Administration under the command of Assistant Special Agent Dan Mahoney for the support. The federal agencies, we couldn't do nothing without their resources. Thank you so much. So over the past several weeks, the Providence Police Narcotics Bureau and the Intelligence Bureau, Organized Crime Bureau, have been investigating numerous individuals involved in illegal narcotics distribution throughout the city. Although these investigations are not connected, the apprehension of the suspects involved should serve as a strong message that drug trafficking in our city will not be tolerated, and you will be apprehended and held accountable. Our outstanding police department is committed to removing violent criminals from our streets and dismantling their unlawful operations. Year to date, the Providence Police Department and the men and women have seized 25 firearms with 3 resulting in charges, including 4 from the past Tuesday during the execution of a search warrant by the Intelligence Bureau. Our officers work tirelessly to ensure the safety of the public that we proudly serve. These investigations and evidence you see in front of us here today are part of what the men and women of the PPD do each and every day. The 2 specialized units involved in working these investigations deserve recognition for a tremendous job and outcome, arresting 10 high-level drug traffickers in the past 2 weeks. I commend Major Dave LePayton for his leadership as the commanding officer of the Investigative Bureau, as well as Lieutenant David Allen and Sergeant Sean Lafferty, who oversee the narcotics and intelligence bureaus of the department. Following the thorough investigations, search warrants were conducted by the Narcotics and Organized Crime at Elm Street, Ohio Avenue, March Street, Prudence Avenue, Ledge Street, Waverly Street, and Colfax Street. In addition, the Intelligence and Organized Crime Bureau also conducted search warrants on Superior Street and Winthrop Avenue. Lindsay will be able to provide you with the names of the defendants as well as the ages, because we'll be spelling those names here for a while. Hundreds of thousands of narcotics were seized during these search warrants I just mentioned. 13 handguns and 1 rifle, a Draco 7.62 caliber assault rifle with a high-capacity drum magazine was seized. Very similar to an AK-47, it can do a lot of damage. All of the individuals who were apprehended have criminal histories. These cases are still pending. Investigation and further arrest may be forthcoming. And one specific case that I mentioned earlier at Winthrop Street, Avenue. Over 1 million in cash was seized, as well as 11 kilos of narcotics. That included fentanyl, cocaine, and heroin, as well as 4 firearms. The lead detective in that case, and who did an outstanding job, was Detective Jonathan Desmarais. That warrant was executed Tuesday morning on Winthrop Avenue. Other evidence seized from all the warrants that I just mentioned was 1,293 grams of cocaine, 1,728 grams of fentanyl, 2,631 grams, approximately 6 pounds of marijuana, jewelry, Rolex watches, and 4 vehicles were seized. Various other narcotics were seized, and a bulletproof vest that you see here today. Providence police officers will be vigilant in these efforts going forward to combat illegal drugs and guns from entering into the hands of violent criminals. This was a great work by all the officers involved with the assistance of the Drug Enforcement Administration, as I just mentioned. Cases like this can be challenging, but the work that they do day in and day out is why we have this outstanding work and evidence here today. And, this work is remarkable. Going forward, the Providence Police Department will utilize every resource necessary to allow our officers to continue their focus and mission to remove guns and drugs from our neighborhoods, which ultimately lead to senseless acts of violence, disruptions of communities, and diminishes societal well-being. Thank you for being here. We'll now open it up for questions.
The Winthrop Avenue case, $1 million in cash?
Correct.
What was the circumstance and how was the cash found? In what condition?
Correct, Steve. So yeah, it was all in cash. Detectives went there, executed the search warrant. Like I said, 11 kilos that they found there, as well as firearms, and the money was seized. It's a well-planned. This takes months to investigate. It takes months to conduct and execute. And once they're there with the proper resources and the proper people, all the evidence is collected. So yeah, the money was there.
Was the money in coffee cans, or how did they find it?
Do you have an idea on that, Dave?
Yeah, it was in the residence in a backpack.
In the backpack. Cash.
Right?
Correct.
So in addition to that million in cash, that's in addition to vehicles, jewelry, and ballistic vest, so more than $1 million in theory of property.
Absolutely. When you look at all these items and all these drugs and all this money, there's a street value for each kilo, right? But when drug dealers break this down into pieces, grams, and whatever all this other forms they want to put the fentanyl in, we're talking about millions of dollars, thousands of dollars. And so you're right. Street value of this stuff could be higher in the millions, $2-3 million easy. So.
How much of the drugs in the 10 cases are we looking at here? Do you know?
As far as the drugs, as I mentioned, I just give you the numbers of thousands of grams. We had 11 kilos in one particular seizure.
What I'm saying
Yep.
is there more, or is this all of it?
This is all. There's more?
Yes.
There's more, yes.
Was that assault weapon, did that come from Winthrop or some other place?
That's the assault. That came out from, which one came out?
Superior.
Superior. 158
158 Superior.
Superior.
So not all these cases are related?
Correct. And as I mentioned before, it was 2 different agencies. We had the Narcotics and Organized Crime Bureau that is led by the Lieutenant Dave Allen, and then we have the Intelligence Bureau, which also is led by Sergeant Sean Lafferty, which is under the command of Major Dave LaPayton. And so it's 2 different bureaus, but they all strategically and conduct investigations at a high level, as you see here today. This is a huge arrest. I don't think in my career, and probably in the last 20 years, we have seized that much cash, along with 11 kilos in one specific home. And so it's outstanding work.
What does this say about the proliferation of guns and drugs in the city?
It tells us that there's individuals in this city that continue to, are involved in drug trafficking, and obviously this is something that we're not going to tolerate, as I mentioned earlier today. It's unfortunate that we still have that criminal element in the city that wants to disrupt communities, and so it tells us that, yeah, it's violence, as I mentioned, but the outstanding work of the men and women of the Providence Police Department, as I mentioned the other day, 312 firearms. We're constantly doing the work that we need to do to ensure that we hold these people accountable, this criminal element in the city.
Mayor, if I may, how concerning is this to you? I mean, this is a great hall, but there's a lot out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken out for years now, before I was in office too, about the problem of the proliferation of illegal guns in our communities. And it is exceptional that the police department continues to seize these illegal guns, but it's discouraging that there are so many to seize. And this is a nationwide problem that, not police department policy, but my personal advocacy to see that we have stricter gun laws federally to make sure that it's harder to get a gun. But at the local level here in Rhode Island, I'll continue to advocate for it to be more difficult to get a gun because we continue to see right in front of you, because guns are so easily accessible, they fall into the hands of people who are seeking to do harm in our community, who are, using it as a tool that will result in everything from overdose deaths to disputes. We obviously stand up here on really sad days reporting victims of violent crime, and when a firearm is involved, often there's serious injury and sometimes death that results. And so we will remain vigilant on trying to seize these illegal guns, but we also need to stop the spread of them in the first place so that there are less to seize.
In terms of a little budget preview, police can count on more support, more?
Yeah, I've been outspoken and will remain committed to advocating for full staffing of the Providence Police Department. These operations, as the Colonel mentioned, take months in many cases. That takes men and women who can devote the time to do these sort of operations, and so full staffing is important, and so are the tools and training necessary to maintain the standard of excellence that we've had as a department for a long time now. And that requires consistent and steady investments and funding. The police department historically have gone through periods where funding has been restrained, and then we find ourselves playing catch-up, which is where we are today. And so consistent, steady funding to allow for the ongoing operations that are so important to keeping our residents safe will remain a priority of mine in terms of budgets and financial policy.
Colonel, you mentioned that all of these people that were arrested have criminal histories. I think people want to know, how are they still operating, if you will, if they have criminal histories? Were any of them on probation and violating that probation?
And so we'll provide all the details as far as the criminal history, but that's something that it happens. Some people get second chances in life. They go back into a city, that's our job is to ensure that we enforce the laws and that we hold people accountable. That's what these officers did. Outstanding work. And to go back to Steve's question earlier, as far as is it concerning? We're a capital city. You look at capital cities throughout this nation, and they're having the same issues. But the best thing about us is that our officers are vigilant on a daily basis. When we come here every day in the afternoon, we conduct roll calls, lieutenants in charge of the districts. It's all about the mission to ensure that we can mitigate some of these issues and lower the crimes and violence that so many cities face. And so that's our job. But as far as, they have criminal histories, something that unfortunately some people don't understand, that when you get a second chance, you have to ensure that you can use it for the proper reasons. Our job is to ensure that we enforce the laws and that we hold people accountable, and we take these guns, these high-powered rifles, off the streets of criminals and take the criminal element out of the city.
And without shedding too much light on how you actually get these guys and ruining how you do these investigations, can you share what went into this? You talked about months of planning, but can we know anything more about what that planning entailed?
When you're a narcotics detective and you work with different resources like the federal agency that's here today, we utilize every resource there is, whether it's technology, whether it's surveillance, whether it's informants, you name it. And so it's nothing that it's work. It's police work, and anybody can search that. But what we do here is that we're consistent, proactively doing police work. The details of anything like that is it's something that we do, but it takes time. It takes time to collaborate evidence. You want to put a case together that's strong, and it takes time to do that. Sometimes you will look at certain individuals that we may get information, but we have to make sure that we find the right evidence to ensure that we hold them accountable so that we have a strong case against them.
You talked about technology. Were flock cameras utilized at all?
I'm not sure about that. But I'll tell you this, what was utilized is the outstanding work of the men and women of this police department. Sometimes you don't go home following people doing surveillance, following up on leads. And so it's just a lot of work that again, it's the work of the men and women of this department that ends up with this type of evidence and with the criminal element in handcuffs.
Were any of these arrests violent?
I'm sorry?
Were any of these arrests or encounters violent?
Not at all, because it's well prepared. It's all done tactically, and the training of the men and women of this department is what leads us to have no serious incidents or injuries of them or the criminals.
Colonel, you said at one of the houses, you guys found $1 million, 11 kilos, I think you said. Was this a single person in that home, or was that kind of a house for, several drug dealers?
So it was a single individual, and that was at the house, if I'm correct, yes. And so it was a house. It's obviously a stash house with money and drugs.
All right. Safe to say that's
Yep.
kind of a big dealer you have potentially taken off the street.
Absolutely. Think about it. 11 kilos, $1 million plus cash. That's an individual that is involved in disrupting communities, selling drugs, and putting stuff into people and destroying people. So yeah, absolutely. He's a big level. He's a supplier, you name it. And so he'll have to face the criminal justice system. So.
All right, guys, I'm gonna send out the names of the people arrested. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
This, was